Welcome to our human-centered design project. Feeling panicked is a sudden, uncontrollable fear or anxiety. We have all felt panicked at one point in our lives, whether it's because of work, school, or life in general. With this in mind, we wanted to discuss a topic that many people encounter within their daily lives and which stems these emotions of feeling panicked. Our research thereafter led us to a key problem. People often panic when the topic of LGBTQ+ is brought up into conversation, as they are scared to say the wrong thing, as they are not educated enough about the topic. We therefore asked ourselves how we can establish a system wherein people can openly discuss and talk about the LGBTQ+ community in a safe and non-judgmental way, with the ultimate impact of educating people about this topic. We decided to target Generation Z, specifically from teens to young adults. This is because the LGBTQ+ community has grown and become more accepted within this generation, and young people are known to be more open-minded and more accepting, as we are still young and finding ourselves and our identity. When it came to research, we conducted 4 surveys that targeted individual aspects relating to the LGBTQ+ community. We spoke to friends, family, and strangers through online surveys because people felt uncomfortable having in-person conversations about this community. And thus, an online platform provided a safe and anonymous space for people to explain and discuss their views. Survey 1 was a broad and general overview as to how people feel in regard to discussing this community. This led us to a few key insights, such as the fact that most people do feel comfortable having conversations online, that asking questions can be seen as a form of judgment, that 56% of people agreed that this community is not spoken about enough, and that 87% of people are open to understanding and learning more about the topic. Our second survey was based off our assumption that stereotypes surrounding the community are the reason as to why there is a misconception about the community. Our assumption proved relevant, as our insights told us that people are aware of the stereotypes based around the LGBTQ+ community and agree that they are wrong. However, through our survey's questions, participants still fed into stereotypical narratives, whether it was intentional or not. This proved that this is the reason as to why there is a misconception about the community. Our third survey was based off when and where people would be comfortable talking and learning about the community. The results were that people feel comfortable talking about loaded topics in any environment. They prefer to speak about such topics in a general conversation. That they prefer to be sober as opposed to under the influence. That interactivity, like a game, would act as a good icebreaker and avoid offending anyone. And lastly, that people wanted a mixture of light-hearted humor and facts in order to educate and create awareness. Our solution was to create an educating board game that creates a light-hearted atmosphere for players to learn and discuss about the LGBTQ+ community. The game will be designed to encourage a series of relaxed but structured discussions between small groups of players. It offers a broad introduction to LGBTQ+ matters. It creates a safe space to discuss sensitive and sometimes emotive issues. The game introduces the player to the various common stereotypes about the community, and through playing the game, it debunks these stereotypes and educates the player, making them more confident to discuss LGBTQ+ issues in the future. Therefore, with our solution in place, our fourth survey focused on the design aesthetics of the board game. We asked people to choose an illustration design style that reflected the light-hearted, fun, and educating aim of the game. This led us to Lgbtq-Who. Lgbtq-Who is a game concept based off the board game Guess Who. This is a two-player game where players use yes or no questions to isolate a hidden character. The first player to guess the other player's hidden character wins. Each player takes a game board of 24 faces and places one of 24 mystery cards in the empty frame in each game board. This card represents the character your opponent has to guess and the character you have to answer questions about. The 24 characters will depict stereotypes of the community. Players must make use of a list of questions that are based around LGBTQ+ stereotypes, such as all gay guys have limp wrists. Based on your opponent's answer, flip down faces in order to eliminate characters. For example, if your opponent says their character has a limp wrist, flip down all the characters who don't have a limp wrist. Once a player guesses the right character, they must then take the corresponding character debunking card, which then educates the player about the truth behind these stereotypes. Our overall aim of creating an educating ballgame that has a light-hearted atmosphere for players to learn and discuss the LGBTQ+ community openly in a safe and non-judgmental way will be a game that, although targets Generation Z, can be played by anyone and everyone. Lgbtq-Who aims to debunk the stereotypes that create a misconception about the community so that people can learn about the community with a clear and open mind. Lgbtq-Who will help players feel less intimidated when the topic of LGBTQ+ comes up in conversation, thus uniting our generation together through celebrating pride, diversity, individuality, and hopefully preparing an inclusive future for all.